Hey everybody, episode 47. I'm back in the swing of things from being in California. So I'm trying some new stuff. I'm actually trying to up my social media game and I'm not sure how. So you all can help me. So I'm working on Instagram and obviously adding some more, if you've seen it lately, some more videos, some more reels, some more short things. I'm not comfortable with doing them, but I'm really trying hard to up that up a little bit. I also have a YouTube page I've had forever, never really do anything with it. So I've started adding some things so you can find that at Ficks-Tennis and Pickleball on YouTube. And I'm actually currently recording this podcast on while I'm doing it. So I'm going to post, I've already got some up there that were kind of just for fun, but I'm going to actually post them as I do them. In addition to that, I have started, and I've had it for a while just for fun, but I've got a TikTok page, Scott Ficks Tennis and Pickleball. You can follow some things I put up there. I still don't exactly know how TikTok works, but I know like 10,000 people watched my buddy Tommy fling a dead bird over the fence with a pool skimmer over the past summer. So people will watch everything. So if you want to see things, I'm going to try to do that a little bit more. Like I said, this one I'm actually got myself a little tripod and I'm looking at a camera. It's kind of odd and uncomfortable, but what the heck, it's my podcast anyway. But let's get right to it. So I took Molly to Summerfest, and if you're not from here in Wisconsin, Summerfest is the world's largest outdoor music festival. I would assume it's the largest outdoor or indoor. It's really awesome down at the lake. If you ever get a chance, you have to go. It used to be 2 weeks straight, I think 14 days, 15 days. Now it's 3 weekends. It was changed due to COVID. Really cool. We went simply for food. If you like food, they've got pretty much everything there. Great people watching. If you enjoy people watching, check it out. Didn't really listen to much of the music, but there's stages everywhere, and it's a pretty cool way to spend your day. If you are local, head down there. There's a way to get in free every day, and it's pretty easy to find free tickets around here. So thanks to Ann and the WAC for hooking us up with the free tickets. But check it out, and if you're not from here, just go to probably summerfest.com or the app. It's a great place to spend your day and hang out, and the people watching's it's pretty awesome. So a couple of quick things. This will not be a super long podcast. I do this thing with my kids and myself to pass time and when you're struggling for needing something. So it's called What Would You Do? What would you pay $100 for right now? So when you're out or you're home or you need something and you just don't want to do it, what would you pay $100 for? Mine is almost always brushing my teeth. If I'm out, and I'm a freak about brushing my teeth, it's all the time. So mine is mostly, I would pay $100 to brush my teeth, to have someone brush my teeth for me, take me somewhere, bring me a Coke. Anyway, think about it. It's a fun game to play with people. What would you do? What would you pay $100 for right now? It might be to just be at home, sitting on your couch watching Survivor or whatever it is. And along with that, since I can remember being, I guess, an adult, I've always had these list of things that I would do when I become president. So if I'm with my friends, it's always, well, when I'm president, I'm going to do this. And I just decided I'd talk about it because I think it's interesting and I'm curious what others would do. And this is not political things, so it's not when I'm president I'm going to end homelessness. These are things that are entertaining, that would make your life a little bit better, but not serious. So my first two, number one has always been making all roads straight. Imagine if everywhere you went was straight roads. I could have gotten to California in half the time, right? Less gas, less wear and tear on cars. Everything would be easier, just a straight line everywhere. So I went through Colorado and went up and down and around mountains and Utah and Nevada. Kansas, the one thing they have right, they got straight roads. Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, we flew through there. There's nothing. So straight roads. And the details can be worked out. We'll build a lot of bridges and tunnels, and we're going to knock a lot of things down and displace a lot of people. But it's all right because we'll get places quicker and society will be happier. My other one, and this is, I'd put this tied with straight roads, is no time zones. Anyone that knows me well knows I never know what time it is in any place I'm at or going. I spend a lot of time sort of driving to Michigan to see my parents, or Indiana, Illinois, and I always have to ask. And then I never know if they're messing with me when they tell me it's, it's noon in Wisconsin, but it's 5 p.m. in Florida. Flamer. So I would get rid of time zones, and no matter what, if it's 8 a.m. in Wisconsin, it is 8 a.m. in California, and it's 8 a.m. in Denver, and it's 8 o'clock in New York. I don't care whether it's light or dark. No, doesn't matter. If you don't like it, you can move to the lighter or darker place. And I think it would make our world so much easier. Everywhere you'd go, you'd know what time it was. We wouldn't have to buy watches. We would put Apple Watch and Fitbit out of business because we wouldn't need that to change when we travel. It would just be 5 o'clock. Everywhere in the world, it would be 5 o'clock. So sign on for that. If you'd like to start a petition for me to be president, just let me know. We can start that. There's a big election in a couple of years, and I think I'm ready. With these two things, I think I can make it. Lastly, before I get to a little bit of my tennis stuff, is I've got a calf issue. Some of you know, I've talked to a few people about it. So the quick story was, it had been kind of tight, sore for a while. Kind of felt like something was wrong, but no, not really a pain. Just it was there. I could notice I had a calf. So 3 weeks ago, maybe, I'm on court, turned to chase a lob. I was on court with Judy Sue and Jenny, I think. I turned, yelled switch, moved to my left, and it just, boom, instant pain, stopped me in my tracks. I thought I was going to be done. Fortunately, I was able to continue. Didn't move much, stood by the basket, did the whole ice, ibuprofen. I know they say rest, but I did not do that. It was fine. After that, give me a few days, I'm running and doing all the usual stuff. Then in Vegas, I'm with Molly, and we're playing this game at the Luxor, I think, maybe New York, or MGM. We were coming across in the lobby all these tiles, and they were different colors, and I think I said, hey, Molly, let's go across, but you can only jump on the black ones. So we're jumping, and I take one jump, and it, boom, done. And I can hardly go. More pain than the first time. I don't deal well with pain, but I could tell I started sweating. I turned white. Like, it was painful. So I managed to limp my way through the lobby, get to our room, ice, all that, get in the car, get to California, sore, but no big deal. Next day, we're hiking some mountain in California, totally fine. Next morning, walking around in the morning with Molly, no running, no jumping, just a casual walk through the neighborhood. And it was the first time I actually heard it, like a pop and a tear and a crunch. And that was the worst of the 3 or 4 times pain. And at that moment, I thought, I'm going to need crutches or a wheelchair. And I'm sitting on the side of the road in Burbank outside a hotel, wondering how this is a serious thing. And then I limp up there, ice, ibuprofen, all that, totally fine. That night, a few hours later, walking, we even climbed, went hiking a bit, and totally fine. And now, since then, absolutely nothing. I've done a couple of over 5-mile runs, hit balls on the tennis court, nothing. It's not even sore. Wouldn't even know I had it. So my Dr. Famer in Florida tells me that I'm going to live with this the rest of my life. That's just what it is, because he's dealt with it for 15 years or so. And I'm afraid he might be right. My other doctors, well, my doctor friends, Dr. J and Dr. Judy, they both tell me the usual: ibuprofen, ice, rest. I don't do the rest. Probably never will. I've done the ibuprofen and the ice. And so my next step is to see if it happens again and get it worked on. But has anybody had calf issues besides you, Coach, that has an experience in that? Because I know some of it obviously is it's age. It's my career. I've been doing this full time probably since I was 20, 21, 22, somewhere in there. So it's a hard career on somebody's knees and joints and muscles, and I've been super lucky never to have a major injury. But I'm interested in anybody with calf issues, and hopefully mine is no big deal. So one thing I'm really bad at, I've noticed on these podcasts, is transitioning from one subject to another. I don't know how to get better at it. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and they'll do like little music between and things like that. And I'm not interested because I just like to talk. So I'm going to continue to move on at my pace. And I apologize if it is pretty weak transitions to new topics. So speaking of weak transitions, that doesn't even make sense because the next thing has nothing to do with that. But I'm reading a book about Mickey Mantle. My dad was sort of worshipped Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle, that was his hero. And I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame last spring and learned a little bit. Now I'm reading this book, and although I find it incredibly hard to read, a lot of big words, whoever wrote it is far more intellectual than I am. But it's getting better. But Mickey Mantle, in his career, he had 1,734 walks and 1,710 strikeouts. So what that means is 3,444 times he walked up to the plate, his at bat, and didn't touch the ball. Did not get a hit. Either swung and missed or got walked. And they did the math, because I didn't do it. And based on around 500 chances to bat a season, that is over 7 seasons he spent, if you add it all up, without hitting the ball. 7 seasons. Almost 3,500 times he wasn't successful in the thing he was trained to do, and is one of the best to ever do it. Now, half of those were walks, so probably a lot of those intentional. They don't say that. But I've talked a lot here about how many points can you put together without having to swing your racket. So you've got those buckets I've talked about. You get a certain number of points from you being great, hitting winning shots. You get a certain number of points from your opponent not being any good, unforced errors, right? That would be Mickey Mantle going up and getting walked. He gets on base. That's a positive for a hitter, right? And imagine him too. 3,500 times he walked up to the plate and didn't do what he was expected to do, what the crowd wanted to do, what he was paid to do. Imagine having to deal with that mentally. That, say the strikeouts, 1,700 times he failed. That's got to be crushing, but he kept going. And on this podcast and in my lessons, I talk so much about just moving on. You are going to screw up. I tell so many groups, listen, we've been playing for 10 minutes. You've all screwed up a ton. Let's move on. You've broken the seal. But I just thought it was super interesting that a player at that level was able to fail 1,700 times. And then probably we'll call the walks neutral. 3,500 times he did not do what he was supposed to do, yet he's considered one of the greatest baseball players ever. And man, when you're on the tennis court, just take your medicine, take your losses, make some big hits when you have to, like he did, and choose your spots and accept you are going to mess up tomorrow and the next day. It's just, can you manage those? Can you get your other opponent to mess up worse? And I just thought it was super interesting. I do not recommend you reading the book unless you are a baseball historian, because it's got a lot in there, and I struggle with it, but I also struggle to read and comprehend regular sentences, so it's been a challenge for me. Something I am good at, I believe, is I've been thinking a lot about and having the conversation on this podcast about being a tennis pro versus a tennis coach. being a good coach versus being a good class manager. All these things I question a bit. It's part of my career. And I had some conversations recently about professionalism on the court with two friends of mine, Denny, who everybody knows in Wisconsin, and my buddy Sean from the BC. And I've talked a little bit about with other coaches is that I think my career and my fellow professionals have lost some things about how to handle themselves on the court, off the court, and the little details I think have been missed. And I've talked before, I was super lucky in my career. I've got 3 people outside of my parents that influenced my tennis career. I've mentioned Famer 100 times. He taught me how to play, how to handle myself as a teammate, how to coach. My tennis director, boss man, Tom Cascarano in Greensboro, he taught me how to be that professional, how to handle myself in large groups of people, talk to different types of people, the business side of it. And Mike O'Connell, master of Indiana tennis, taught me how to teach, how to teach a shot, how to talk to people on the court, and the sort of the technical stuff. But all 3 of them taught me about professional details on the court, like having the carts of balls out before students arrive, always being on the court before your students, having enough baskets for everyone for that first pickup so we're not scrambling around. When the group's over, especially large groups, don't run off to the office and hide. Go upstairs, well, depending on where you're at, but find your lobby, find where the people are, have a few chats about what happened in the class, what they think. Get some feedback so you're better next time, how they play. Not leaning on the cart, not having your freaking cell phone, sorry, that one bothers me, on the tennis court. It should not be there. Sometimes I'll have one on the court, but it is on the ground, turned off. I never touch it. Understanding that picking up balls, that is relationship building time. That's an amazing time to catch up with somebody that you wanted to have a talk with about a certain shot, right? It's a great way to meet somebody, to go talk to somebody who you thought was struggling with the drill and they think it's your fault. This is such a great time to catch up with people, that ball pickup and water break. And I see so many coaches leaning on the basket, picking up by themselves, not taking advantage of those things and those moments. Sending follow-up texts after a class randomly. Hey, great job today, looked good. Or hope you liked it. Or I've sent apologies. Hey, sorry that group wasn't great. I really struggled today getting the levels organized. I'll be better next time. There's so many ways that tennis professionals can be better, and I'm not sure we're all doing it anymore. And I do think that's one thing I'm pretty good at. Not as good at teaching all the shots, but I think those are things I think about a lot. And just wondering where that went away. Is it an age thing? Am I just old? Is it coaches now aren't growing up through that that great environment that I had with at least 3 great leaders, mentors, to make sure I didn't screw up and that I have that attention to detail that I have. And the reason I brought this up, and this does connect, it's not terrible, is we had our first on Tuesday at the WAC. We have something called Ladies' Day. It's all 8 courts, it's all coaches, it's a way for everybody to get together, all levels. And I realized that I was nervous and I was anxious before it started in the days leading up to it and getting everything right. And my nervousness wasn't about the teaching. It was about getting people in the right place at the right time and starting quickly and not wasting time. Will the coaches follow me? Will they be able to keep up with the lesson plan in my head that I don't always verbalize many details with? We just go. If you've been in groups with me, large groups, we start, just find a spot, start hitting balls, and then we start moving people. I was anxious. It was a big deal for me, even at my age and experience level. I was going to be in front of a lot of people who didn't know who I was, who probably had never seen me run something at that size. And that anxiousness is, am I able in 90 minutes to convince a group of people that what we're doing is valuable and they can get something out of it? And I thought it was cool. I think if you're not nervous, you shouldn't be doing it, because in larger groups, it takes you got to be brave. And I hope it went well. I mentioned texting people afterwards. I text probably half a dozen people, hey, what do you think? How'd it go? How can we make it better? That way they know that it's important to me. And I'm not doing it just to get that. I'm doing it because I actually want the information. But it led me to, I've always believed, and I don't know if someone taught me this, told me it, something, but in every event, there has to be one person in charge who guarantees that whatever that event is, that class, that conference, that speech, that whatever, it's going to succeed. They're in charge. They're the boss. It has to happen. I always thought about it when I've mentioned before, years ago, I got to play in a classic rock band with my brother and my dad and my uncle and my cousin Emma and Pete, and my buddy Nish even played congos or bongos or something in a couple of shows. But at that point when we started, we always knew that no matter what happened, Uncle Roger was going to take care of this. We were going to be great because he made sure 100% it was going to succeed and be great. After that, it became my brother. He kind of took over the band a little bit, and it became him. He led us and made sure that no matter what, guys, I got this. And I've seen that with Famer and Tom and Mike and people I work with now, that these events, even if they're small, they have to have that leader. When I started pickleball at Moreland, that was huge, and it had to be one person 100%, happened to be me, pushing it and making sure everybody was on board. And when you're on the tennis court, I teach primarily doubles. When you're on the court, try to be that person. Hey, I got this. No matter what we go through in the scoring and our emotions and mental state and our physical during a match, I got this covered. Can you be that person? If not, match yourself up with that person. Find a partner who is that, if you're not the one to be able to lead like that. But I just had some interesting things on my mind this week. The details, the coaches, I'm curious what other coaches might think about why, and if you're not doing it, why not? Is it just me that paid attention to those things as a young coach? But it got me thinking about the tennis pro versus coach. I always tell everybody I'm a coach, I'm not a pro. But now I believe in certain situations the word professional is more important than I thought it was. From a business standpoint and treating your players and members and students correctly, I think professional is the right word. Maybe the live action coach is the word I like to use more. But anyway, as usual, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me Instagram, Scott Ficks-Tennis and Pickleball. You also can watch this on YouTube. Not sure why anyone would want to. You're going to see some more stuff on TikTok. And if you've got recommendations for me, I'd love to hear it. So this was episode 47. Thanks, everybody. And I will see y'all on the courts.